Hey boys and girls. Today we are going to be working on lesson 7, writing zeros in the dividend, which is the number you're dividing by. This is in your module 10 through 20 book, page 447. So turn with me to 447 and we're going to write zeros in the dividend. So remember, the dividend is the number that's being divided. Like right here, this is the dividend. Remember, the divisor is what you're dividing by, and the answer is called the quotient. Okay, so we can find our quotient, our answer to our division problem, by writing a zero in the dividend. So you're going to come across problems sometimes that need you and require you to do this. So we're going to do some examples right here, and I think it's going to make sense to you guys. So let's look at the first question. Charlie weighs 4 cantaloupe melons. They each weigh the same amount. How much does each cantaloupe weigh? So I can see here he's got his 4 cantaloupes. All together they weigh 176 6/10 ounces. But I want to know how much each, or one, cantaloupe weighs. So we're going to write a division expression to model. Remember, an expression is just a number sentence without an equal sign. So we would write, I've got my 176 6/10 divided by 4, because I want to know what one of them is. All right, if we want to estimate, let's think about estimating it. Think about what we could round this to. So I look at my 4, because that's what I'm dividing by. And I think about things that 4 can go into easily. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So this 17 is really close to 16. So I could say 160 divided by 4. And I know 16 divided by 4 is 4. So maybe they weigh about 40 ounces. So that's my estimate. That's going to help me get an idea if I did my answer right. Okay, so this is our estimate. I put it in the wrong spot. All right, so we're going to divide our numbers. Now, looking here, we have no decimal out here in our divisor. So we don't need to move any decimal because there is no decimal out here. Remember, in the past we have been, if we had a decimal here, we moved it inside, but there is no decimal. This is already a whole number. Remember, every time we want to make it a whole number. So since this is already a whole number, I'm just going to pull that decimal straight up because that's where it belongs. I didn't have to move it straight up. Okay. So now I'm going to start dividing just like we always do. So first, and like we already did when we estimated up here, we think, how many times can 4 go into 17? Well, we already thought of that, and we thought 4. Because 4 times 4 is 16. Now, I was very careful right there to write my 4 above the 7. There is still a space here beside the 6 for another digit. So 17 minus 16 we know is 1. Then we bring it on down and bring it on back to the 4. 4 goes into 16. We know that 4 times. Now you see where my number is? 44, and then there's a decimal. Because 4 times 4 is 16. 16 minus 16 is 0. Then I'm going to bring it on down and bring it on back. 4 goes into 6 one time, because 1 times 4 is 4, and I get 2, but there's nothing left to bring down. So you might think, well, when we've done this before, we just say it's a remainder of 2, but this is a decimal. We have to have an exact answer. That's what this decimal is giving us an exact answer. You know, when you're talking about money, you don't say, I have 44 remainder $1. You know, you don't say that. This is an exact amount. So if we come across this, if we have subtracted We have a remainder. There's nothing left to bring down, but we're not done. Obviously, there's still a number here. We can always add a 0. We have talked about that a lot this year. Sorry, my lights went out. We have talked a lot about how if we add a 0 to the end of a number like this, we have not changed the value of that number. It's fine. We've said, okay, I'll put one up here, 33 and 2/10, 33 and 20/100. I added a 0 here. This is the exact same value. It still has 33 with 2 in the tenths place. I could put zeros from here to Buck's Corner and it wouldn't matter. It's not going to change the value. There's no value in that 0. Just like there's no value here. If we pretended this was money, $176.60. 60 hundredths is the same value as 6/10. We saw that a lot when we were making models to multiply. So I add a 0 because I'm not changing the value. This is a decimal. Now, if I had 33 and I said 33 and put a 0, yes, that's changing the value. 33 is not the same value as 330. I'm talking about doing it after the decimal like that. So you can't always just add a 0 to something, but in these decimals you can because the value's not changed. Here, the value will be changed. So I add my 0, I'm going to bring it on down and bring it on back. How many times can 4 go into 20? We know that's 5 times because 5 times 4 is 20, and now I'm finished. Boys and girls, you may see sometimes that you need to add another 0 and bring it down and keep going. That happens sometimes. That's okay. You won't just do it once. Sometimes you'll do it more than once. All right, so our answer is 44 and 15/100 ounces. Okay. Let's look at the next page. Let's try some more so we can keep practicing. Okay, Kelly wants to buy 78 ounces of almonds. Each bag can hold 31 and 2/10 ounces. How many bags does she buy? Write the division problem. So she wants to buy 78 ounces. And every bag is 31 and 2/10. This bag is 31, this bag is 31, 31, 31. I want to know how many bags. So I'm going to divide that to see how many bags she's going to get. So we're going to rewrite the division so that divisor is a whole number. Explain how you do that. We're going to move that decimal like we've been talking about to a whole number. Okay. So we're going to use our long division to divide. So we had 78 and we had 31 and 2/10. Okay. Another important thing to remember, where is there always a decimal even if we don't see it? Like in this number 78, where is there a decimal even though I don't see it? Right here at the end of 78. Just like if I said you have $78 or I said you have $78. It's the same value. There's always a decimal there. I made sure I put it here because there is a decimal in my divisor, so I've got to move it once to make it a whole number. I do the same thing inside that I do outside, so that has to be moved once. What do you think that means is going to be put right here? A 0. Because when I moved my decimal once, that was like multiplying by 10, so I've got to do that here. And then put that decimal above where it landed so it's in the correct place. Okay, so now we're looking at this like 780 divided by 312. Okay, so I know it can go into there at least once, and I'm thinking it can go twice because I know that 3 times 2 is 6, but I know 3 times 3 is 9, so 3 might be too many. So I'm going to come over here and do 312 times 2. And I get 624. Just for my curiosity, let's do 3. That's 936. That's a little too big, but that's okay. We know for sure. So 312 went into 780 2 times, and I put it right above that 0, so it's right beside that decimal. Because 2 times 312 is 624. It's very important that I had that 0 there, isn't it? Alright, now we're going to subtract. Trying to write small. And we get 156. Okay, so now I'm thinking, 312 is larger than 156. So here is where I can add that 0. I subtract. My next job is always bring down. So after I subtract, I bring down. I'm going to bring down a 0. And remember, I had rewritten that 780. So if I stick that 0 at the end, that has not changed that value a bit. Now, I know 312 can go into that big number. So let's think how many times. So I'm thinking here, I see my 3 and I see my 15, which makes me think 5. We did 3, so let's do 5. That'd be 10, 6, 15, 60, 15, 60. So 312 goes in here exactly 5 times, because 5 times 312 is 1,560. I have nothing left over, so my answer is 2 5/10. So she buys 2 1/2 bags, because 5/10 we know is equivalent to 1/2. All right. I'm gonna turn to 449. Let's do one more before we go. Let's do 5. Aubrey buys some apples. That weigh 2/10 pound each. She cuts the apples and puts some of the halves on a scale. The total weight is shown, which says 1 5/10. How many apples are on the scale? Okay, so the apples weigh 2/10 pounds each. So that apple's 2/10, 2/10, 2/10. Yes, she cuts them and put halves on the scale, but that really doesn't matter because it just says how many apples are there. It's not saying how many halves or anything like that. So let's think about what we're doing. Remember, first we look here and we need to make this a whole number. So that means my decimal needs to move once. I have to do the same thing on the inside. So now my decimal is going to be right here, like 15. 2 goes into 15. How many times? Count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. That was 7 times. I'm putting it right over the 5. And that gives me 14. I subtract and get 1. Again, let's add a 0 here. We're not changing our value. And 2 goes into 10 5 times, because 5 times 2 is 10. And our answer is there are 7 1/2 apples on there, because each one was 2/10. All right, guys. So there's some more problems. If you think you need to keep practicing, you can do your I need you to do your homework page 171, the odd numbers, and do your best.